Greetings and welcome. This is Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. We are guided and blessed by Spirit. Trigger warning, the subject matter may be of a mature nature and deals with true crime events. All cases, names, people are treated as alleged until proven in a court of law. All numbers used in this case pertain to the case and context specifically and may not bear direct resemblance to the numbers you may have in your date of birth. So if you've been watching real time, there's been a bit of a gap. We're busy finishing off our beautiful film, and I'll give some anecdotal moments at the end. So there were a couple of cases I was looking at before the transition happened. And of course, in recent days, we have the Siemens CEO, whose helicopter on a tourist venture down the treacherous river, by all accounts, just fell apart, right? So we'll have a look at that. We are going to be looking at the passing, beg your pardon, of the former U.S. Attorney Jessica Aber. This is a particular one that I was going to look at. There's some Dodge activity there. And of course, the buzzword currently in the world is the tariffs that Trump is imposing on the world. Let's have a look at who Trump is versus who Xi Jinping is in terms of their date of birth. And interestingly, their date of birth is one day apart. But of course, Xi Jinping is a lot younger than Donald Trump. And then another one that I was going to look at was the infamous burning of the Heathrow airport, one of the substations, which caused catastrophic issues around there. So we'll have a look at that and see if Putin's dirty fingers are in the pie. So quite a bit of a hard-hitting ep this week. But let's get into it. Let's see how things are going. And I hope you're doing okay. It's been a while since I've been doing a show, so a little bit rusty, but the numbers inside me keep turning over. And of course, being Intuitive Sunday, we'll rely mainly on intuition, psychic abilities as well. So we've got Jessica Aber now. One can argue there's been a lot of cleanup and shake-up since Donald Trump and the First Buddy took over the White House and, of course, ruffled many feathers. Of course, the big one being the trade war. Now, I just quickly had a look now. According to reports, Jessica may have passed due to epilepsy or related. So be that as it may, let's see here. All right, so the day she is discovered at 9:18 a.m. on Saturday. So effectively, we're going to be looking at the Friday, Saturday. So Friday would be March 21. So 9:18. I'm just going to make this red here. Yeah, things have been quite hectic, but we'll get into it a bit later. And I'm also, I've spent a bit of time meditating now, and in fact, started Saturday just to break the intense focus of producing and editing a film. All right. So 9:18 puts us in this zone here. So we see a 25/7. So let's say epilepsy, which is quite a serious thing. Unfortunately, one of my family members does suffer from epilepsy. So let's just have a look here. So when dealing with epilepsy, and again, obviously I'm not a doctor, but, head information. So the night before, which is the 33/6/15/6/6, not a good sign if we're looking for a natural death or a natural situation, because the sixes do bring around head injury, head The difference for me, see, when we're dealing with things like epilepsy, we want to see 8s. So the Sunday after, which would be the +1, we are seeing 8s here. Because 8s deal with brain. So 8 is brain, matter, brain, where 6 is the head. And of course, in the +1, we are seeing 2, 6, 8. So there's a 6 potential head issue, which causes a brain issue, which could cause a malfunction. But something doesn't feel right here. So let's go. So the Friday begins. So we see a conflict here. There's a 3+3 conflict here the day before she is discovered. I haven't read too much detail on how, when, what, other than top line epilepsy. But we have a double 3 conflict here, 3 + 21, 3. This is not good. So 3, if we stay at a chemical level, right? 3 is about chemicals in the body. So in the +9, the day before, so in the -1, the Friday, we get a 30 outcome 3. Yeah, you see, here's always a good telltale sign. I've noticed this incredibly often. We have a 20 outcome 2 here on March 20. And in cases like this, where we have, let's say, people in the inner circle, people in government, of course, she was part of the Biden administration, as far as I understand it. The Thursday, there's an outburst here. 20 outcome 2, there's an outburst. So we're getting a lot of feminine energy around here. And of course, one can agree with Jessica's photo. You can see she's, well, in my opinion, very feminine. I don't know what her date of birth is. 3s always speak about the way you present yourself to the world, always looking good. First impressions count. We've got hidden issues here. So March 20, there's an outburst. In the day, we see a 32-5. So this is breaking of communities. And when we're dealing with 5s, 5s is government. 5 is about government. So this could line up with, old government being taken care of. Some people are holders of secrets, holders of information. And I would imagine in the case of Jessica, the holder of evidence. So the Thursday before, we've seen problems here. There's even, okay, there's obviously a lot going on here. So let me explain. So we've got a hidden 14-5, so there's issues here because we haven't hidden 15-6. The day before, there's been interference here. And when we have combination of numbers, right? So now I'm going to talk law. Law, the number 5 is about disclosure. So we've got here 41-5. So what are they trying to prevent from being disclosed? Because 41-5 in a court situation is the manipulation of evidence or destroying of evidence even. So if we, and please excuse the watermark, I'll sort that out when I'm back proper. So hopefully it's not in the way here. The 41-5, this is getting rid of evidence here. There's definitely evidence. So here's another sign of evidence. The day she is discovered, March 22, we have a 22-4. Now, on one hand, yes, we can say there's a plan in action. There's an agenda. But because it's open, it often reveals what is the reason this has happened. And we see a 22-4. 22-4 in the court process is evidence. So we got a number of numbers here talking about evidence. So look here, the day, so whatever happened to her must have happened the night before, in my opinion, because we have all of these sixes here. Sixes, when you start talking clandestine, covert, behind the scenes, open the door while people are sleeping, poison. A lot of threes around, so a lot of chemicals around as well. 6, because there's a hidden 15-6, and outwardly we have a 24-6. So these are familiar people to Jessica, or what would be referred to as familiar, in that they belong to the 3-letter word agency. So if we look at the +3 of the Friday evening, lots of CIA numbers. Hidden 89, so hidden 89, hidden murder. 27-9 outward, so this is the +3 of the Friday evening. Friday. There's a 27-9 here. The intention was to take her out. And we have a 999 imbalance. We have a portal sequence imbalance. People taking care of business here, are they? See, this is the interesting thing about these clandestine motherfuckers. Hidden 17-8 in the +1. This was intended. She was definitely a target. This was definitely intended. So in the +9, where there's a 33-6 the night before, right? So sacrifice, murder. And what I'm getting here, there's more people involved here. I don't believe Jessica's the only one. And the reason why I say that, there is a 27-9, so premeditated. So where the 33-6 is sitting, we also have a 36-9. There's more people involved here. There's other people related to this passing and this event. This is about the larger grouping. The larger grouping versus the inner circle, protecting the inner circle. 23-5 evidence in the +1. In my opinion, this wasn't a natural death. The presence of 16-7 as well alludes to a hit, assassination. So we got double confirmation on legal matters. A double confirmation with legal matters is evidence, like lots of evidence. There's a conflict of communities grouping, so old versus new, one can argue. Outgoing, incoming. This was definitely a takedown, in my opinion. I wrote this, I believe, during my initial prep. She dies along with evidence. So let's just see her in the +6. Oh my God. The +6 speaks about trafficking. Why would there be? So we're talking about women groups. We've got a 30 outcome 3, 21 3. In the +6, we've got a 39 12 3 CIA takedown here. There's a larger grouping of, there's trafficking numbers around here, eh? Feeding them Pizzagate motherfuckers. Biden and his pedophile team. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, the Satanists. Don't be fooled. They are still working in the background. So I saw a glimpse of supposedly Barack Obama photo bombs a couple taking a photograph. Did you see that post online somewhere? I wonder why they want to put him in the center somewhere to say, hey, look, guys, don't worry, he's still alive. But meanwhile, he went down with a Black Hawk Down, right? Something fishy about that Black Hawk Down could be related here as well. Remember the Black Hawk that goes into the airplane that's going to land? All related. Why would they want people to say, there's Barack Obama dive bombing a poor picture? Oh, but don't worry, we got the ex-president in that picture. Oh, there's been shake-up and takedown here. CIA numbers the night before, the Friday evening, CIA on the scene, 39-12-3. They're sending a message. March 22, the Saturday morning, right? Saturday morning, beg your pardon. The Saturday morning when supposedly she gets discovered. 22-4, if we add a 6 there, we have 28-10-1. They're sending a message. There's woman in distress here. There's evidence breaking. Evidence. It's all about evidence. $31.4. So where the 22.4 is the day she's discovered, there's a 31.4. So of course, so there's confirmation she was already passed. So from midnight, so let's say Saturday morning, 0001 minute past midnight, and before sunrise, there's already a corpse, unfortunately. So she definitely passed here. The intention, we have an 89 on the Friday evening, murder. In the 6, they I want to say capture her, but obviously she's in her own home. But there's a 21-3. I wonder if there was some kind of interrogation or information gathering before they injected her. I'm seeing a syringe. They injected her. Scalp. Scalp is what I'm hearing. Scalp. Which is related to the 6's head. This was a takedown, without a doubt. Mr. Orange Man. Let's have a look here. Politics is a dirty game. And let's just say, it doesn't matter what country you're in, politics, corruption, fraud, and of course, in this case, we got elements of Pizzagate here, motherfuckers. So the Siemens CEO. Now, one can argue, yes, accidents happen, but what I've seen and the feeling that I had, all rotor blades come off, so the top and the tail comes off. Something very odd there. So we've got the crash that happens April 10, I believe, April 10, 2025. So the day starts the 10-1, not a good sign for someone of this elevation, and I mean by elevation, the CEO of arguably one of the largest IT firms. April 9, we see a 999 issue. There's an issue following this person. And when you're dealing with 13.4, 22.4, 13.4, we're speaking about data. data, information, 999. We've got 999s and overburdened 4s here. There's chaos happening here. There's definitely foul play, 14.5. And again, we have this inner circle, larger grouping as well. 23.5, the bigger grouping. 14.5, inner circle. So in the intention of the day, we have a 16.7. That's a takedown. And by the way, that's not a mechanical issue. 16.7. Sabotage, yeah. So the day that he goes flying with his family, we have a double 4 conflict, 4 and a 13.4. There's something behind. I know everyone's in this big race for AI and all this kind of thing. There's problems here. So, I beg your pardon. So there's a 16.7 before. I beg your pardon. There's a 17.8 here. 17.8 homicide. Now the 17.8 can also speak about aviation issues. 326.8. So the outcome, the intention of the event is a 26.8, very violent, very catastrophic on the human body, of course, with all the 8s. So 6.20, 20 outcome 2. You see, whenever these kind of murders happen, right? Someone makes a noise somewhere, and this is the result that happens, right? So we also have a 20 outcome 2 in the middle here. Nine, 23, 5. There's something odd here. So let's just say, if we look on face value, so the day after the accident, April 11, we've got an 11.2 here, so something is unlawful. 15.6, you see, on one level, the 15.6 can speak about human error, but in this case, we can agree, how can human error create the both propellers to come off plus the tail to come off? That's not human error. So 15.6 becomes a sabotage number. 15.6 is sabotage here. And in the +1, April 11, in the +9, we have a 33.6. This was a takedown. And they're getting rid of, on April 10, in the +9, 32.5. Obviously, this guy might have been going against what the main wanted to go through. Definitely foul play here, ladies and gentlemen. The day before the accident, we see a 22.4. This is a premeditated plan. And it's all to do with the interweb. Very similar numbers, this 13.4, 22.4, 13.4 that we saw in Stargate, the new Stargate program, as well as the owner of AI, OpenAI, 13.4, 22. It's all computer numbers, data. This was a takedown in spectacular fashion. Crazy world we're living in here, ladies and gentlemen. Are we ever surprised? Are we ever surprised? It is April 13th. So interestingly, in Jessica's case as well as the family, we have this 20 outcome too. And when someone has an outburst, and the most obvious example is Gabby Petito, when they were pulled over, she's standing in the middle of the street crying, complaining, this, that, it's too much. And in both cases, we have a 20 outcome 2 year. So, and I'm just mentioning, I happened to watch one of Alicia Wicker's videos yesterday, that when you start getting into the cabal, and she did an episode on, she did a live episode. So she was talking about celebrities. Now, if you're living under a rock as a musician, which most musicians aren't, you know what you're getting yourself into. And I believe we have a similar situation here that, it's the frog in the pot, right? So if you had to have a pot of boiling hot water, and that orange man is looking funny. Anyway, if you put a frog in a boiling hot water, it will immediately jump out, right? Save its life. But if you put the frog in and please don't do this at home, they're very cruel, that if you have a pot of water and you turn it on cold, but you're going to warm it up and you put the frog in, the frog will stay in. But the frog will eventually die because of the hot water, right? So the same happens here, that people get involved in situations. In the beginning, it might seem like the right thing to do, or lucrative is the word I'm getting, lucrative, money motherfuckers. Or I also want a piece of the pie. But it gets to a certain point where that water's a little bit hot, or there's a change of guard. We start seeing problems. And in both cases so far, there must have been an outburst at some point. I don't want to do this anymore, whatever. And the chickens come home to roost. So I'm just getting a nod here. Let's just have a look at Putin. I did if you've been watching the videos, I mentioned at one point, I was in a very long trance, at least 7 hours at one point. I was working on a missing persons case. But when I stopped working on the case, I immediately had a vision. And it involved Putin and the UK. Now, this was back in 2020, right? Now, through my mad psychic vomit during the 2020 reading, the outcome behind all of the chaos that the UK will face, or I still believe it's going to happen at some point, maybe COVID diverted it, but Putin has this horrible thing about the UK. So the day of the fire, we have a 20 outcome 2 year as well. Jeez, is this the right date? Didn't we just do a March 20 year? So it looks like 20 is the theme in this episode, yeah. Let me just get a read on this, so on the day we have a 32.5, which is a destruction number, very destructive. We've got all the 17 eights as well in the +3. 38, 11, 2. So in the +6, so we're looking at the action, right? 26, 8. It's all Putin's numbers. The 17 eights, all the eights, it's Putin. But the next day we got a 15-6. Now, there's been several cases in even this year. You'll recall the two sisters that were walking late in early hours of the morning, then disappeared, and then later found in the river. Oh, they must have slipped and fallen. Okay. Russian numbers around there. There were 3 other operatives recently. Now, when I say recently, in the past 2 to 3 months, 3 Russian people also taken out in England. We've done several shows on this channel where there's operatives, including Chinese operatives, all working together, Putin. So there's definitely local activity involved here as well. There's a 15-6 in the +1. Putin. So 41-6. So yeah, this is like sabotage, destruction. And Putin's numbers here, eh? So Putin's poking the bear around the world, wanting to launch his nuclear missiles, the pig. The pig from the Kremlin. I wonder if the real Putin's actually alive. Let's just see. They're definitely wanting to cause trouble around the world. So I wonder what Putin's beef is with the UK. He hates the UK. 9/11/2. We must actually look to see. There might have been a related event. Sorry, it's been a while since I've looked at this. Definitely Putin's thumbprints, fingernails all over this, the dirty pig. I don't even want to continue with this one. Putin is causing trouble everywhere. He wants to get his rocks off, the maniacal pig. All right, so Xi Jinping and trade wars. So I thought, let's just have a look at Trump and Xi Jinping. Who are they? So as a match off, what are we dealing with here? So interesting with Xi Jinping, ding-a-ling, he has a conflict here. He's got several conflicts, this person. He's got lots of hidden secrets behind these Chinese closed doors, this guy. So let's just see here. Xi Jinping's got a 6/6 conflict here. So 24. There's a family conflict with him. There's a family conflict with him. Is he the real? Why is this coming up? 20 outcome 2 also speaks about clones, stand-ins, 11/2s. There's something wrong with this guy, Xi Jinping. So when someone, and I'm just saying, given that he's the president of a less than desirable country, with someone with all these 3s that is in politics, we're talking control freak, maniacal, a lot of feminine energy as well, by the way, with all these 3s, lots of feminine energy. Must be having some hot sauna baths there with some of the boys. Nothing wrong with that, but, if you portray yourself as married president, but behind the closed doors, lots of saunas with boys here. And he has the 18/9. So Ping's got issues of his own, huh? The total mass of 3s, and again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's about you. But with him, there's imbalance here. As much as his driving force is about control and taking control, and even making his subjects disappear with the 21/3, very famous disappearances in China. 21/3, this guy will torture people as well, eh? But he's got a conflict here. There's a conflict with him. Is he actually from the line or heritage that he says he comes from? That is up for debate. So we've spoken endlessly about Trump in the Trump series. There's some podcasts or playlists you're welcome. I've looked at his name, but in relation. So interesting, they're born a day apart, but obviously several years apart. So if we look at Trump, right? Trump is all about the big deal, 11-2, masses, 20 outcome 2, 40 outcome 2, right, wrong, we can debate that as well. But if he thinks something's right, then he will pursue that agenda with all his fours. We've got two very different people here. So Trump, if we have to use colloquial words, beg your pardon, Trump is like the man with the hammer. He is going to smash and break and rules and regulations. He's not going to take, he's a bit of a brute, right? But when you come to Xi Jinping, he might give the exterior of this robust leader, but he won't take very lightly this pounding. He's more of the quiet, we'll kidnap them while they're sleeping type guy, Xi Jinping. We'll abduct our own subjects and torture them kind of guy. He won't necessarily be outward. Now we can agree I've never seen this guy get upset or angry or say anything loud. He comes across as a bit of a puppet in many ways as well. Been dangled by other strings. Ancients behind him, eh? Ancients behind this Xi Jinping. I've always had this theory about Asian people and the influence of alien races on the human race and creation of human beings, aliens. Lots of manipulation going on there. Splicing and dicing, motherfuckers. Now, when we look at the two countries, so July 4th, so let's just say Donald Trump is the outward vocal person, whereas Xi Jinping, he'll nod, but when he closes the door behind, he'll become this maniacal girl, throwing its toys out the cot with its pink tutu as well. So let's US July 4 and China October 1. So interestingly, America and China have the 11-2. So here's your conflict. Here's your answer. Yeah, there's going to 11-2 is trading, is the deal, is the contract, is the one meets one and there's a deal. So here's the conflict here actually. Trade war conflict. So there'll always be trade wars against China. Now, when you look at America from a trading point of view, of course, 32.5 is a naturally destructive number. It's a breaking down of communities. So from an American perspective, it's very easy for America to close doors on trade because 14.5 is your trade as well. 14.5 is about local and international trade. Whereas in the case of China, who still need to spell the word copyright, 16.7 is where you get the concept Hong Kong, knockoffs, made in China for 2 cents. 16.7, knockoffs, nothing original about China. Even the spyware called TikTok. The spyware called TikTok is a 16.7, by the way. Invented and not invented by Xi Jinping, but obviously it's a Chinese company. And in the main, like Russia, no Chinese company operates without getting the blessings of the Tutu man. 16.7, knockoffs. 25.7, very illegal trade, illegal business. So China. The irony about this whole thing, and I stand to be corrected on this piece of information. So knockoff city, yeah, for sure. Doesn't China own most of America's debt? Is what I heard probably about a year or two ago. China owns most of US's debt. We'll have to look into that. But we definitely have standoffs here. The stronger, believe it or not, is actually America. America's not going to take shit from China. Now, what can happen, looking at America and China's numbers, so America will always be upfront and say, this is it, take it or leave it. Now, we can argue Donald Trump did a bit of a backstep this week with putting a pause of 90 days on the trade wars for most of the world, except for China, of course. Maybe Elon was feeling the pinch there because all of his EV cars are getting satellite burnt and sales are plummeting. The difference here is America will stand up to what it wants, without a doubt, through the numbers, and we know it in the real. But when it comes to China, China can cut him off. So we need to, because of the 16.7, it can be like 16.7 can be like a separation, right? Or a divorce, the number. So what can China cut off from America that will make America suffer? I'm not a trade expert, but one could imagine, based on these numbers, there's something that America will need possibly that China will cut off, or China will just trade elsewhere, like in South Africa, of all places, the motherfucker. Let's just see. The currency wars at the moment are not looking healthy either, depending on what side of the fence you're sitting on. China won't take nonsense from America either, but I believe America can hold off China, but we must understand if China is holding the ace in that it owns most of the debt that America has, then there's other problems involved as well. Because China has a 10-1, which is about big money, big money. The downside of all the threes with Xi Jinping here, as much as it exudes control, if he gets out of control, he will be extremely out of control. There's definitely issues with Xi Jinping here. What we see in the media and how he presents himself to his country is not who he is behind closed doors. Same with that Michelin man up in North Korea. They love their bubble bath. Let's just see. All right, so there's definitely head-on-head issues here. 11-2, 11-2, both countries. It's what they do. This is what they do. The outcome, in my opinion, favors America, particularly when you're dealing with trade. All these numbers here, 5s, 14-5, 23-5, are trade war numbers, are trading numbers. With these 7s here, this is not very strong, in my opinion, when it comes to trade wars. Kind of buckling numbers. We'll rather just go market somewhere else. Numbers. Definitely a lot of bubble bars with this Xi Jinping here. Where are we on the count? Wow, 45 minutes already. Wow, 20 outcome 2, hey? Man, sir. People, and with the Jocelyn case that's happening in South Africa at the moment, Trafficking of children. Right in the heart of Saldanha Bay. Interesting. I wonder who's checking those ports. Or has anyone checked those ports since the case has broken or during the case? It all seems to be stuck in around the township there, where, in my opinion, it may have started there but didn't end there. They must check those ports in Saldanha. So my mindset for the past 2 to 3 weeks, of course, since the launch, soft launch we had at the Joburg Film Festival, we're busy doing light panel beating. It is going to be taking up a lot of my time. And of course, the aim is we want this movie to be the best it can be and to give it the life it deserves. It's quite a process, so I'm going to be busy there for the next few months, next couple of months, God willing. But there's some work that needs to happen. But we certainly have a beautiful product. And to ensure its longevity and legacy intention, all hands on deck. Right, so ladies and gentlemen, it's been great to connect with you again. I will endeavor to do the podcasts. I've started looking for the Saturday shows, which is the ancient portals. I've started looking at Greece. I've got a bunch of numbers, bunch of dates. Perhaps next week on the Saturday I'll release that. I'll just do a bit by bit when I can, but I am going to be very busy. And once again, thank you for all your comments. Of course, the Jocelyn video that I did like 7 months ago has been going crazy because the court case is on now. It does feel like there's a lot more to speak about, but of course, time is also limited, unfortunately, at the moment. So I just want to remind you, if you are still watching, thank you, gratitude and blessings to you. This year has been challenging, and it will be challenging even from an interpersonal point of view because we are in a 9-year. And if you feel that things are being rattled, things are being put out of place, you're not feeling 100%, just always work from within. Don't let the external or exterior of your life determine who you are, what you want to do, and where you need to go. Always work from within first and then outward. Don't let outward influence who you are and what you want to do. Very important. And yeah, man, just stay in the tube, stay safe, stay alert, peace and light to you. And may your path be opened up for you during this year. If you've been hammering and doing something and you wanting it to succeed, just remember, we are in a 9-year. Things are going to be a bit tight. Next year, we're going to be in a 10-1 year, so there will be money around. 10-1 brings money. So a lot of the economists, particularly in South Africa, because obviously South Africa has been hit by these tariff wars, 30%, ironically. By the way, that 30% that's been put on South Africa is linked to, there was a meeting between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Elon Musk in New York a few months ago, whenever specifically it was. Elon Musk is trying to get his Starlink here in South Africa. But of course, the legacy that South Africa has gone through in terms of African people losing land, African people being murdered on their land, African people being murdered because of their land, there is a 30% markup, if you want to call it that, on trade. And that is to right the wrongs in the past. Now, we can all argue all governments are corrupt. Don't fool yourself. Not only South African, not only China, not only America, Russia, every government is corrupt. It's the nature, unfortunately. And while Orange Man and Elon are fighting the Dodge wars and saying, oh, we're cutting here, we're stopping this, stopping that. But while they're doing that, it means on their side, their market share increases, their return on investments increases. Now, one can argue Elon Musk took a knock, Apple took a knock this month or this week. But everyone wants power. When you're in government, everyone wants power, right? And it's the same here. So the fact that Donald Trump puts a 30% markup or tariff on South Africa because Elon Musk didn't want to pay the 30% for his Starlink, so now America's retaliating. Well, if you want to trade, we're going to put a 30% markup. It's so childish. And I'm going to take this opportunity, and I know there's a lot of Trump supporters. But, I've been wanting to say this moment that we must understand that there's a cheeseburger that's residing in a place called the White House, right? Now, when the cheeseburger realizes that the land that he's actually occupying is sacred Indian ground, then perhaps he should start looking at his own history and not the history of South Africa, which he has zero impact on. And let me tell you, Elon Musk left the country after school, which was, let's say, 17, 18, went to a very good school in Pretoria, I believe Pretoria Boys are, but whatever, grew up in luxury, and enjoyed the privileges of studying at higher institutions in America and securing his green card and whatever. The reality is that while Elon Musk was enjoying his white privilege, millions and millions of South Africans were running in the streets being shot at. While Elon Musk, enjoyed a privileged white schooling life and experience, his equivalents were being shot at in the streets because African people, while Elon Musk was speaking and talking Afrikaans in his Afrikaans school, African people who have no right or should never have been forced to speak Afrikaans in this country were forced to be educated in a foreign language. So please explain to me why African people should have been forced to learn a foreign language in school. So Mr. Cheeseburger and his side of chips called Elon Musk need to get their facts straight, that they enjoy their white privilege while a lot of Africans were being murdered on the streets by, and including, by the way, CIA. There's a very good case of the raid on Lily's Leaf, and you can look it up, Lily's Leaf, raid on Lily's Leaf, where all the South African Communist Party and leaders of the African National Congress, excluding Nelson Mandela, he had been arrested slightly before, were all arrested on this farm. Now, if you dig into the history, and I'm not speaking bullshit here, it's actually in the annals of the CIA library in New York, that a raid was orchestrated by the CIA and MI6, British motherfuckers, during the late 60s on the African National Congress and South African Communist Party. Now, the dumb South African Afrikaans police at the time, who were predominantly whites, now there were Africans working in the police force during apartheid as well. That's a whole nother story. But the dumb Afrikaners who lived around the corner had no idea that the SACP and the ANC were heading up quarters there. They had no idea. They were tipped off by the CIA. Now, if we zoom out, why were the SACP in particular, and there's arguments about that as well, and the ANC, why they were taken out, was because during the late 60s, and I happen to have produced a documentary on all of this back in the day, was because of the communist war that was going on between the US and Russia. That Cape Town, at the most southern point of Africa, was a waypoint or a way station for Russians to go via South Africa to Cuba. And of course, the CIA and Americans at the time had to close that down. And of course, the leading South African Communist Party at the time, as well as the ANC, were about to launch what is commonly known as Operation Mayabuya. That the final push against the apartheid regime, who in 1913, which Cyril Ramaphosa mentioned, the Land Act, it goes way back when Jan van Riebeeck and his horde of barbarians and rapists and murderers arrived in this country and started killing Africans and stealing their land in exchange for clean, shiny mirrors. We know that story, right? So America must, and is particularly the cheeseburger in the White House, it's called the White House for a reason, which is occupying sacred Indian territory. So the cheeseburger and the side hustle there, Mr. McDonald's chips, Elon Musk, also need to get their facts straight before they start imposing their white privilege on an African nation that is still bruised and battered from Elon and his people and the generation before that. So let's check what's in your cheeseburger before you start eating garbage. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please stay safe, stay alert. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.